Mrs. Carrington lost her smile. Just like all the other teachers who taught us. I was wondering when she was going to snap too. Mr. Garrett ran out screaming. Mrs. Pepper was caught trying to poison us. And Mr. Johnstone named us in his death letter. He didn't die, but he did intentionally jump down the stairs. We were ruthless. Well, my class was. I didn't speak much. But if the class were laughing, I was too. If I didn't laugh, they looked at me like I was stupid. I don't know why our prime goal was to get rid of our teachers. Mrs. Carrington was nice. I liked her sunshine smile and pretty dresses. But the other kids wanted to get their claws into her. Serena Ackerman insisted she had seen Mrs. Carrington casting a spell. Her proof was. Mrs. Carrington looked, like, really weird when she was talking to a third grader. She had her eyes closed. I was sure Mrs. Carrington was just mid-sneeze. But I was told to shut up. So, my class started to call her a witch. Throwing things at her face. Refusing to work. And even reporting that she had hit them. Mrs. Carrington's sunshine smile started to darken. I tallied in my notebook how many times her voice broke. Her hands tightening into fists when Rowan asked if she brushed her hair. And then if she had a boyfriend. The boys at the back used her as target practice. Throwing screwed up pieces of paper in her face. Then pens and pencils. And even a bottle of water. Which almost bruised her face. I watched the light start to dim in her eyes. That excited gleam ready to teach us faded completely. Mrs. Carrington came to class looking like she had been crying. She kept tissues in her pocket. To swipe at her eyes when Jack flung his workbook at her. And started to teach us with her back turned. So she wasn't hit in the face with flying pencils. After days and then weeks of waiting for Mrs. Carrington to give up. Our teacher lost her mind. On a random Tuesday. When it was raining. She was writing a poem when Summer Carlyle stood up. Summer bullied me for weeks because I didn't get skin care products for Christmas. There was a princess-themed face mousse that all the kids were talking about. And even I really wanted it. I asked Mom if we could go to Sephora to look at the makeup. But when I made a beeline for the skin care section, Mom's smile started to twist. I did ask for the face mousse. But Mom laughed at me. For what skin? Ruby, you are 9 years old. Mom picked up the product. Do you even understand what this is for? I was half aware of Summer Carlyle a few meters away. The girl had eagle eyes, and I knew she'd noticed me. No, I mumbled. It's for facial wrinkles, Mom laughed. She cupped my face, her smile making my tummy twist. Ruby, it's a de-aging serum. Do you want to look younger? I blinked. But all the other kids. All the other kids want to look younger, she teased. I thought you wanted to look like a grown-up. I did. Summer said I always looked like a baby. Mom placed the mousse back on the shelf. And instead pulled me into the makeup section. She bought me eyeshadow. And when I pressured her, because Summer was definitely spying on me, she even bought me that other stuff that's like paste or something. The grown-up orange stuff adults put on their face. Summer had bought 3 bottles of the mousse. And made sure to show it to everyone else. If you didn't have it, then you weren't considered cool. I showed her my grown-up makeup. And Summer turned up her nose and said, "Well, my Grammy wears that stuff, Ruby. So that means you wear old people's makeup." That day, Summer Carlyle was determined to make our teacher cry. "Mrs. Carrington," Summer mocked, leaning forward in her desk. "How old are you again?" Our teacher's lip pricked. "I am 31, Summer." "Ew." Summer pulled a face. "Isn't 30, like super old?" "That's young," Mrs. Carrington said in a sigh. "I don't think you kids understand aging very well." What's that supposed to mean? Summer snapped. Aging is beautiful, Mrs. Carrington said. I lost my mother when I was very young. And I would give anything to see her wrinkles. Age gracefully and you will be proud of your wrinkled skin. Be thankful you got to live all those years. Summer giggled. Did your mommy look like a grandma too? I caught the exact moment our teacher started to crack. She paused writing for a moment, her fingers tightening around the pen. Summer Carlyle, her voice shook slightly. If you do not stop being rude, I will be calling your mother. 30 is old and disgusting, Rowan Adams spoke up with a snort. When I twisted around, the boy was practically vibrating on his chair. Itching for an argument. His eyes were narrowed, lips quirking into a smirk. I can see your ugly wrinkles, Mrs. Carrington. Mrs. Carrington stopped writing when the class erupted into laughter. She turned around, and I saw her mouth finally curl into a smile. I missed her smile. I was used to her forced grins after definitely crying in the bathroom. But this one looked genuine. Straightening in my seat, I scribbled out my latest tally. Maybe she wasn't going to leave after all. Mrs. Carrington's lips split into one of her old smiles. Her eyes shining. I have an idea. Why don't we play Simon Says? She stepped forward. Her dark eyes drinking all of us in. I felt the air around me still. And my pencil slipped out of my grasp. Mrs. Carrington's voice was suddenly in my head. Cracking through my skull and stirring my brain into soup. It was so loud. Loud enough to elicit a screech in the back of my throat. Simon Says clap your hands, she told us. We did. My body moved without me. My hands coming together to clap loudly. Mrs. Carrington nodded with a smile. Very good. Simon Says jump up and down. It hurt. The feeling of my body being forced upwards. Ripped from my seat. I jumped 3 times. A symphony of feet hitting the floor. Simon Says sit down. I slumped back into my seat, tears filling my eyes. But I couldn't blink them away. Simon Says blink. Finally, I could blink. My tears spilled down my cheeks. I could hear others whimpering. But none of us could speak. Mrs. Carrington tilted her head. Her hair fell into her face. And when she pushed it back, I saw the shadow of something else behind her eyes. Something black. Something alive. Simon Says stand up, she whispered softly. We all stood up. Our chairs screeched against the floor. The sound echoed, bouncing through the classroom like thunder. Mrs. Carrington smiled wider. Simon Says hold your breath. Panic hit me. My lungs burned. I wanted to scream. But my body refused to move. Seconds turned into forever. My heart slammed in my chest, begging for air. Until finally, Mrs. Carrington said, "You may breathe." I gasped so hard I almost fell over. She was laughing now. Not like before. This one sounded wrong. It bubbled out of her, sharp and cold. I realized something. She wasn't Mrs. Carrington anymore. Her smile stretched too wide. Her voice echoed like 100 whispers layered together. Simon Says, she began again. But before she could finish, Summer screamed. It broke the trance. For just a second, Mrs. Carrington's head snapped toward her. The lights flickered. I swear her skin cracked. Like porcelain breaking. Something crawled beneath it. Thin black veins spiraling across her neck and arms. Simon didn't say scream, she hissed. Summer's mouth opened again. But no sound came out. Her lips moved. And then nothing. Her body froze. Her eyes staring blankly ahead. Simon says sit down. We all dropped into our chairs. Even Summer. Though her body didn't move right anymore. Mrs. Carrington walked between the desks. Her shoes clicked softly against the floor. Every step felt like a hammer inside my head. She stopped beside me. Her perfume smelled like roses and rot. She leaned close. Her voice barely a whisper in my ear. Do you know what Simon says next, Ruby? I didn't. But I couldn't answer anyway. Her fingers brushed my chin. Cold. Too cold. Simon says smile. My lips twitched. Pulled upward without permission. It hurt. It felt like my skin was tearing. She smiled back. Pleased. And kept walking. Her eyes shimmered like wet glass. And for a second, I thought I saw my reflection. But it wasn't me. It was her. Smiling through my face. When the bell finally rang, we didn't move. Mrs. Carrington just stood there, staring at all of us. Her grin fading slowly. Then, softly, almost tenderly, she said, "You can go now." And suddenly, control came back. Everyone jumped up. Chairs crashing. Papers flying. We ran. Out the door. Down the hall. Screaming and crying. When I looked back, just once, she was still standing there. Her hands clasped in front of her. Her smile back in place. But her shadow was moving on its own. That was the last day we saw Mrs. Carrington. The next morning, a substitute teacher came in. They said Mrs. Carrington quit. No one talked about it again. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still hear her voice. Simon says. And I freeze.